This is the Fucare Libra, the fat tire electric bike that made my bumpy neighborhood, gravel park paths, and grocery runs feel easy and calm instead of stressful. What surprised me is how confident it feels over rough ground without beating me up or shaking the bags off the rack. This fits into the fat tire, step-through electric bike category, and it is the kind of ride I recommend to people who want stability, comfort, and real utility every single day. If you are hauling groceries, dealing with broken pavement, or have a route with hills, this hits a sweet spot. It is not a featherweight road bike and it is not a hardcore mountain rig. It sits right in that practical space where commuting, errands, and casual exploring all make sense. The design choices matter in daily use. The step-through frame makes getting on and off simple when I am carrying bags or wearing heavier clothes. The frame is aluminum, so it feels sturdy without flex, and it holds a solid line when I am turning at low speed. The 20 by 4-inch tires are the star here. They are much wider than typical bike tires, and that extra width spreads out the contact patch. On grass and gravel, the bike does not sink or wander as much. On city streets, those tires roll over potholes and cracks with a muted thud instead of a sharp jolt. The seat is wide and cushioned, and height adjustment is quick. I ride upright and relaxed, which helps my lower back on longer trips. The rear rack is solid, and it doubles as a platform for a second rider if you add a backrest and foot pegs. I tried it with cargo most of the time, and the rack took the weight without flex or noise. It is a big bike and around 80 pounds, so it is not something I want to carry up a stairwell. In a garage or a covered parking spot, it is fine. In a studio apartment, probably not. Setup was straightforward. I handled the basic assembly with the included tools, checked the bolts, set the tire pressure, and adjusted the brakes and the handlebars to my height. The battery arrived partially charged. I topped it off, learned the two-step power on routine, and rolled out. The two-step start, where you turn on the battery and then hold the main button on the handlebar screen, felt odd for a day and then became second nature. The center-mounted liquid crystal display is clear and easy to read. It shows speed, battery level, and assist level. On very bright afternoons, I wish the screen had a little more punch, but I could still make it out by tilting my head or shading it for a second. There is a charging port for my phone on the display, and now I rely on it for navigation without worrying about the phone dying mid-ride. The headlight is bright enough for night rides at neighborhood speeds, and the screen lets me know when the light is on. Responsiveness is where this bike won me over. The rear hub motor is rated at 750 watts continuous with a peak around 1,200 watts, and on the street that translates to brisk but controlled acceleration. It gets me across intersections cleanly without any sudden lurch. I used lower assist when I wanted light exercise and dialed it up on hills or when I was in a hurry. The pedal assist buttons sit under my thumb, and the change is immediate but smooth. The full suspension setup matters. A hydraulic fork in the front and dual springs in the rear keep the tires planted and take the harshness out of potholes, expansion joints, and root bumps on park paths. Paired with those fat tires, the ride feels cushioned and predictable. The hydraulic disc brakes are another strong point. The lever feel is light, and the stopping power is confident even when I had a loaded rack. On a damp morning, they stayed consistent, with no squeal and no fade on a long downhill. Over the long term, hydraulic systems can need more care than simple cable brakes, so I expect to do occasional maintenance, but the trade-off is worth it for the control. Range is always a big question. The battery is a 48-volt, 20-amp-hour pack, and the company claims anywhere from about 45 to about 80 miles on a charge, depending on how you ride. My real usage lined up with that. On mixed rides around town, with medium assist and a few hills, I logged more than 50 miles on a single charge and still had some battery left. If I stayed in the highest assist the whole time or climbed back-to-back hills, the range dropped as expected. The battery slides out for charging and locks with a key. That little lock matters when I park outside a cafe and want the bike to still be there when I get back. Here is how it behaved in my week of normal routines. On my neighborhood loop, there is a stretch of cracked asphalt followed by a short gravel cut through to the main street. With narrower tires, I usually pick a careful line and absorb a few hits through the bars. On the Libra, I looked farther ahead and rolled through. The front end did not chatter, the rear stayed composed, and the bike tracked true. Climbing a steady hill near the park, I bumped the assist up and settled into a comfortable cadence. The motor added a clean, steady push. It did not surge or feel like it was riding for me. It felt like it was riding with me. On a quick grocery run with 2 heavy bags on the rack, the frame stayed quiet. No rattles, no wag. The brakes hauled me down at a crosswalk when a car nudged into the paint without looking. That kind of moment is where you want predictable stopping, and the bike delivered. For a longer use case, I did a weekend loop that mixed city lanes, a packed dirt trail, and a boardwalk section. On city lanes, the bike's weight actually helps. It feels planted over patches and does not get knocked around by crosswinds. The trail part is where the fat tires shine. I dropped the pressure a touch from my weekday level and the tires floated over loose sections. I am not a technical trail rider, so I kept it mellow, but I never felt out of control. The boardwalk had gaps and seams that usually get to me over time. With the suspension and those big tires, the ride stayed smooth and I did not get hand fatigue. I ended that loop without a sore back and without that buzzy, tired feeling you sometimes get from long rides on harsh bikes. There are a few smart touches that I ended up using more than I expected. The phone charging port on the display turned into a must-have for long navigation days. The 2-step power on is a small safety move that kept me from accidentally bumping the system on while moving the bike in the garage. The key lock on the battery brought peace of mind. The step-through frame saved me more times than I can count when I was balancing bags and trying to get rolling at a stop sign. The wide seat is comfortable, and I appreciated the option to set up the rear rack for a second rider. You do need to buy the backrest and foot pegs separately, but the frame and motor feel up to the task for short neighborhood rides with another adult. It is not perfect. The weight is real. If you need to carry a bike upstairs on a regular basis, this will test your patience. The sheer size means it takes up space in a small hallway or a crowded garage. The display is readable most of the time, but strong noon sun can wash it out a bit. I also noticed that pedaling with the power off feels like a workout because of the big tires and the mass, so I treat this like a powered bike and charge regularly. For me, those trade-offs are acceptable because of the stability, comfort, and range I get in return. So who should consider the Fucare Libra? If you want an electric bike that feels stable on rough streets, stays comfortable over long rides, and has enough power for hills and cargo, this is a strong pick. If your routine includes groceries, errands, and occasional light trails, it fits right in. If you plan to carry another adult from time to time and you are willing to add the accessories, the frame and brakes feel up for it. If you live in a walk-up apartment or you want a lightweight, super nimble road feel, you might want something smaller and lighter. For my mix of daily commuting, weekend exploring, and practical hauling, the Libra has been a dependable and genuinely enjoyable ride. To learn more about the Fucare Libra, please check the comments section. Thank you for watching.